Oh, do come in. Hi. Hi, come and have a seat. Nice to see you again. Well, back in storytelling mode here. Um, I thought we might be dip back today after our briefing goes us into Tolkien and Lewis to the Arthur stuff. I'm going through books and I made a little discovery which I was so pleased to do. This precious little original Puffin. Look at that, a Puffin storybook, 3 shillings. King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, Roger Lancelin Green. And look, the person who's done these lovely woodcuts has even done the Puffin in that style. So this one belonged to Maggie, just says Hutchison there. And I think probably her sisters made notes, Galahad, Trustworthy, Percival, Holy Grail. And they have these lovely woodcuts. Look, there's the arm with the sword, with Excalibur, Mystic White, Arthur coming out and getting. And so this is important, not only because it was an influential book for me, as for Maggie, on learning these stories. He's followed Mallory quite closely, but obviously you could just see here's Mallory and here's the retelling, so he hasn't gone into all the detail. And as I begin my own sense of retelling these stories, it's just been very helpful to look at somebody else's sympathetic retelling, not least to see how they've organised the material. He's organised this into 4 books. It's about 17 books in Mallory. So there's The Coming of Arthur, The Knights of the Round Table, The Quest of the Holy Grail, and The Departing of Arthur. And I think that's a very sensible way. And as you know, I've begun my retelling with the Quest of the Holy Grail. And really, we've just got as far as how the Holy Grail came to Camelot. In fact, I haven't quite finished reading that with you, but I have finished telling that now. I've now got a cycle of 6, of which you've heard 4, that takes it up to the beginning of the Grail quest, and the fact that the Grail, the next one I'll read you, probably not today, but next time I'll read you the one where they first see the Grail in Camelot. But looking at Roger Lancelin Green made me think of 2 things. One was, it made me think that I really do want now to take the whole project on, that I really want to tell not just the stories of Galahad, but the whole cycle, which is a bit of an epic undertaking in every sense of the word epic, and will take some years, I think. And it'll have to come out, I think, as a series of books. But I've been wanting to do it for a long time, and that's the other thing that rereading Roger Lancelin Green set me doing. Because I was drawn to recall not only my first encounters, when my mother told me the stories first, and then when I also had that book, but also later on when I was an adult and rethinking the stories and wondering if one day, perhaps in my retirement as a poet, I might join the long conversation of poets who've done this, because poets and writers, indeed, like Roger Lancelin Green, every generation, in a sense, has to take up the tale afresh. We may embroider bits of it and we may make our own episodes in it, but essentially we're receiving the great story of this kingdom, the great archetypal, formative myth of the British Isles, really. And perhaps in times of crisis and in times of transition, such as we're going through, it's good to look to the rock from which we were hewn and to go back to these very formative stories. So I'd been thinking for some time that the time had come for me to do this. And my first impulse to it, as an adult, as opposed to just remembering and telling the stories as a child, was actually travelling around, walking in various ancient parts of Britain. And I have made several visits to Glastonbury and Glastonbury Tor, and sat and contemplated in the garden of the Chalice Well, and gone and worshipped in in the old abbey there. And I'd always thought that the way I might do this would be to, in some sense, to get the land itself to tell the story, to evoke from the places themselves the part of the story that each place held. Now, I've now decided to do it in a ballad form, but I wanted to recapture that and have a sense of where my own calling or vocation to tell this comes from. So the other day, inspired by, well, I did two things. I found another of my books. This is a really interesting one. The Traveller's Guide to Arthurian Britain, a guide to history and fantasy, poetry and romance, tradition and fable of King Arthur's Britain. And you see it's got a map. And it's a kind of gazetteer. It goes through all the places that have to do with it. So just since we've mentioned Glastonbury, as you can imagine, it's got long entries on Glastonbury. And it's got wonderful photographs, and there's Glastonbury Tall in the distance in the mist. Anyway, the result of it all was that I've written what might be a kind of prelude to the whole thing. And it was important to write it because I think it set what I'm doing in a longer story. And it also reminded me of the roots of my own inspiration, which is very much in place. So I've written a little poem called Take Up the Tale. And I thought you might like to hear this, because this will, when I eventually publish these, I hope with beautiful illustrations, this will probably stand at the very beginning of the whole cycle. So here it is. Take up the tale. As I walked out one morning, all in the soft fine rain, it seemed as though a silver veil was shining over hill and vale, as though some lovely long lost spell had made all new again. And through that shimmer in the air I seemed to hear a sound, as though a distant horn were blown in some lost land that I had known, that seemed to speak from tree and stone and echo all around. And with the music came these words: Poet, take up the tale. Take up the tale this land still keeps. In earth and water magic sleeps. The dryad sighs, the naiad weeps, but you can lift the veil. From where the waves wash Cornwall's caves, out to the White Horse Vale, the lands still hold the tales of old, like hidden treasure, buried gold. Once more the story must be told. Poet, take up the tale. Tell of the king who will return. Tell of the Holy Grail. Tell of old knights and chivalry. Tell of the pristine mystery of Merlin's Isle of Gramarye. Poet, take up the tale. Take up the tale of courtesy. Take up the tale of grace. Revive the land's long memory. Summon the fair folk, let them be. Something of fairy, wild and free, still lingers in this place. Lift up your eyes to see the light on Glastonbury Tor. Then come down from that far green hill to where the sacred waters spill and shine within the chalice well, and listen to their lore. Yea, listen well before you start. Be still ere you begin. See through the surface round about, the noise, the rush, the fear, the doubt. Though modern Britain lies without, fair Logres lives within. You may yet walk through Merlin's Isle, by oak and ash and thorn. The ancient hills do not forget, and you might wake their wisdom yet. Who knows what wonders might be met on this midsummer morn? So I have taken up the tale, to tell it full and free. The tale that makes my heart rejoice, I tell it, for I have no choice. I tell it till another voice takes up the tale from me. So that sets it all out, and next time you drop round, we'll take up the tale again. And we remember last time we just got to where Galahad had pulled the sword out of the marble block, and they decided to go back up to fulfill their feast of Pentecost. And of course, that's when the Grail itself comes, and that's the section that I'll read you next. So I hope you'll look forward to that, and it's lovely to see you again. Thanks for dropping by.